And we are live. Gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Mecca of Banter podcast. Coming at you live on a Monday night. It's your boy Hen. I'm this week's host. You can find me on Twitter at Henry Wind. It is a great week to be a Manchester United fan, ladies and gentlemen.
First time it's been genuine in a while.
It is a good week. I have not said it. I don't think all of season 4. I'm saying it tonight. It's a great week to be a Manchester United fan. We have a lot to talk about today. Some big Premier League games, some big games to maybe talk about the title race already, as well as a U.S. men's national team preview as we're heading into international break this weekend. I'm going to start on the correct side of Manchester. Connor Sindobri, how are you doing this morning?
It's finally a little, I guess, stable is the correct word from where we're at. I mean, we're the only, club in the world right now with our manager has a 100% win record this year. He hasn't lost yet. So as I tweeted last week, it's only down here from here for him. Like we're going to ruin his life inevitably. But yeah, I mean, I'm happy to be here, fellas. It's been a nice little, 4-game unbeaten run for us. Ship's a little stable, and the Emery era kicks off.
What's going on with Lafayette Soccer? What's the update?
We lost this weekend to CBC, so the season's done. Lost to the alma mater. Very humbling having to go over and shake all the hands and do that thing. But it's a good season for the boys, overall.
Well, congratulations to you and Butchie on the great season indeed. Lucas Winkleman, how are we doing?
What's up, boys? No, I'm doing good too. Not as great as you guys are doing, but I think I'm super stoked looking ahead to next week. 7 days from today, being live at Energizer Park with the boys, watching the men's national team take on Jamaica. So good to be here. Good to see you guys.
Part of the battery at the Energizer Park at the St. Louis City Soccer Park.
Sports.
Can't wait to be there. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a great time to remind you to check in on your friends, check in on your neighbors, check in on the fellas that may not be doing too well. Because Andy Hoover, we're here with you, bro. We're here with you despite the ups and the downs. We're here with you. How are you doing today?
I'm going to go ahead and knock down the positivity level that's been emulating through you guys here. Not great. All I do is get angry at soccer morning, noon, and night. Name it, doesn't matter. It just makes me so angry. It's unbelievable. But, my personal life is more than some stupid team across the pond that I've never even seen live. So I'm not defined by that. I'm not defined by it. But I am on this podcast. So, yep, Young Yid on Twitter. It's been sad and active and angry, a lot of emotions. And everyone else, I think, in the world that follows this club feels the exact same way. So, yeah, let's dig into it. Woo!
I think I don't remember if you sent it or if I just saw it on Twitter, but it's like supporting Spurs is like having a terminal illness, except you don't die at the end. It's so funny, bro. Happy to have you. For the listeners that are not part of the Mecca Banter group chat, Andy Hoover is one of our top contributors to the group chat. Win, lose, he is still in that group chat.
We sent out a couple signs of live text.
We had to do a wellness check to make sure Hoover was still around. This was a dark week for him.
I sat in silence coming home from Columbia, Missouri for 2 hours, fuming. I couldn't get a text out to anybody.
It's insane. And last but certainly not least, for the second, maybe third time on this podcast, Flan, I've lost count. It is always such a pleasure to have you on this podcast. How are you doing today, bro?
Thank you all for having me. Happy to be here. I think last time I was here, Klopp's kids were hoisting a trophy. Felt like we were going to win everything. We didn't. We've moved on. But man, are we back right now? Woo! Good time to come on. Life is good right now. Unlike Hoove, my entire identity is decided by my Liverpool squad, and it is religion for my family. So right now we are celebrating our highest highs right now. Top of the league, and top of the table in the Champions League as well.
Well, I mean, I think that the last time you were on, it was directly following the 1 of 4 jobs not done tweet on the Liverpool.
Yes, we are 1 of 4. Yes, exactly. Yeah.
I found out today that tweet has since been deleted. The 1 of 4 is no longer up and active. So
Not shocking.
Happy to have you. We have a lot to dive into today. But first things first, if you're listening, you have literally 24 more hours to enter into the raffle that we have. While we're working with U.S. Soccer to promote the game coming up on November 18th in St. Louis. The U.S. men's national team is taking on Jamaica. Section 137 is going down. If you are looking to see a game with the Mecca boys, get your tickets in 137. If you hit the link in our bio, you can buy discounted tickets. But if you go on our Instagram page, you like the post, you follow us and US Soccer, and tag 3 of your friends, you're entered in to win 2 tickets inside of the stadium for the game. So make sure you hit that up and make sure you get in on that raffle because you do not want to miss it. The drawing will be closed end of day Tuesday, and we'll get those winners out and announced so we can reach out to them Wednesday. So I know all the boys in this group, we just got our tickets all together, which is exciting. It's going to get a little rowdy. Make sure you have your eyes out for the Mecca of Banter logo in the stands. You'll see it plastered a couple places. So let's dive in, fellas. We'll touch on the U.S. men's national team towards the end of the pod, but we have Chelsea and Arsenal to dive into. As our resident Chelsea fan, Nick Haflinger, unfortunately got a flat tire on the way home from work today. He's not here. So he's not here to defend himself or defend his team. So Lucas, your defense of your team is going to have to suffice on this game. So how'd it go for you?
That's good. I think it was a much more interesting game to watch compared to Chelsea's game last weekend. First of all, wasn't quite the high school kickabout like we saw were they at at Old Trafford last weekend, but disappointed nonetheless. I think we should have won that one. There were positives, but still disappointed. I thought we were the better team. We looked better, took better shots, created better chances.
So did Arteta, for what it's worth.
Yeah,
he made that very clear in the press that he thought that they were the better team.
Rightfully so. But that doesn't get you all 3 points, unfortunately. I think this was a game of missed opportunities taken in some respects. Being the away fixture for us, obviously it's going to be tougher to play a team that's scoring goals like they are away versus when we have them at home. So at Stamford Bridge, playing a Chelsea team where Palmer didn't have nearly his best game of the season, or really anything close to like what we've seen him when he's firing on all cylinders, so far this season. And then on top of that, against an awful goalie in Mr. Sanchez, Kai gets his goal called off by a fraction being offsides. Odegaard puts a beautiful ball back post to Martinelli, who buried it, which was awesome. And then Trossard missing 2 late chances was gutting.
Sitters.
Yeah. And that's what I mean. Like when you have an away fixture against a team who's top 4 in the table, where their best player isn't firing on all cylinders, you have to take advantage of that, and you can't miss those those clear-cut chances like Trossard did. So that sucks. But I think on the positive side of things, we're still top 4. Yes, we're 9 points behind Liverpool, I think it is right now as the table sits through 11 games, but we're still top 4. Biggest positive for me was that Martin Odegaard was back and played a full 90 minutes and bagged that assist in the 60th.
He just like picked up right where he left off.
Yeah, man.
I didn't think he was going to go 90, and yeah, he was unbelievable.
I didn't either, and especially because the game before that we brought him in, the Champions League game against Inter. We brought him on. And it was a weird because when guys come back from a lengthy injury like that, they normally will come back on in like the 75th minute, give or take. for a couple games and then start, but him coming in on extra time and then just going straight to 90, I was a little worried. And I might have misread it at some point, but I thought that I had read somewhere that Declan Rice had like broken his toe or something. Maybe I read it on X, and that's why
Griff
it wasn't
told me
true.
that.
Yeah. And then he was just there in the starting lineup. I like saw that, didn't think twice about it or really to dig in anymore. And then when the lineups got released, I was like, I mean, sick, but what? So was good to have him there. Mikel Marino said in an interview as well that I think looking forward, outside of this game in particular, that the team, especially with Edu leaving, is focusing more on making steps towards like being solid contenders versus fully on winning the title. And I think it's something that we talk about collectively is like focusing on the next game and like getting 3 points from the next game versus looking ahead to what it's going to look like at the end of the season.
Did you say that Arsenal's focused on becoming contenders instead of winning the title?
You have to be a contender to win the title, Henry. I don't know. That could be an incorrect
That does sound
statement,
like
but
Arteta's focus, honestly. Not winning the title.
As long as we look really good, as long as we're in and around the other guys, then maybe someone else will give me a job. I don't know.
Maybe. But
he's going to City at the end of the season whenever Pep leaves. He's going to take over that City team.
Is that a lock? Can we bet on that?
That'd be insane.
I'm going to call it early.
Couple different fronts.
So.
Yeah.
I
think it's going to happen, bro. I think City's going to throw him a bag.
I don't know. But we definitely have a good stretch of games coming up. Forest, who's playing really well. Sporting in the Champions League also playing really well, and then West Ham and United. So I think that there's opportunities in all these games to kind of get back to playing the football that we're kind of known for playing that we haven't really seen the last 4 or 5 games. We'll see. We also talked a lot about team form in the first half of the season versus the second half, and I think that with Odegaard back and getting him reps and minutes back in and getting the team used to playing our style with him in the middle is going to benefit us as we go into the winter break and then through the second half of the season. So,
dude, I think I saved that Martinelli goal. Like, if there's one
that
thing,
was so bad.
if there's one thing,
he was so. That's what I mean when I said like Sanchez played like one of the worst keepers in the league that game. Cole Palmer was not good and away. Like it was a recipe for us to like take advantage of a really big opportunity to get all 3 points.
Yeah.
Dude, I mean, if rule number 1 in keeping as a whole,
tap that post.
Brother, hold the post.
Yeah.
Just let it hit you if it's going near post. You don't let them have the near post. That was like literally rule number 1. That was, I mean, miserable.
Brutal.
Pretty uncharacteristic misses from Trossard too. He's been like reliable for you guys as a finisher.
He's been one of our most clinical
closer,
finishers for sure.
Yeah, so that was kind of shocking.
I watched the game with Griff, and that's the first thing I said. I was like, it'll be good for Trossard to like go back to that bench role where like he's not expected to be the guy week in and week out.
Yep.
Because last year when he was coming off the bench, I felt like he came on and scored.
There's
in
no
like
pressure.
almost every big game, it felt like.
And he's also able to come in, make those late runs from the wing and either get the ball at the top of the box or get something back post versus because he's a completely different winger than Martinelli, which is why I think they make such a great tag team, whether Trossard is starting and Martinelli comes in or vice versa, because one guy's going to make late runs, the other guy's going to receive the ball early as everybody's still kind of building up and then just drive at that wing back. So forcing him, he didn't do a terrible job in Odegaard's spot, but just the way that we play, he doesn't distribute the ball in the same way. Not a lot of players do, and that's fine, but he was almost forced into a position that, he hasn't really been playing a ton of, if any, since he's been with Arsenal. So
yeah.
I think it'll be good for the team all the way around to have him back in that spot again, whether he's starting or, rotating starts or coming in late for Martinelli. So we'll see.
What's the deal with like the Saka limp? Like limping off at the end of like all these games. It's like it's getting to the point where it's like maybe just sub him off 10 minutes earlier so he's not limping off. I mean, it's happening in like 80% of the games he's playing in.
Well, he plays in almost every single game. I don't know his training staff or anybody, but I can't can't
That's
comment on
crazy.
something that, shit happens.
What do you guys make of this Chelsea team? Like, now that Nicky's not here, like, I don't even mean that talking shit, because it's like I watched them play United, and on paper, like, their 11 is really, really good. Obviously, Sanchez sucks, and I never think that he'll be a goalie for them that helps them win the Prem. Like, I don't know what to make with them. They're in the top 4. I don't necessarily think they're going to challenge, but I'm not also like 100% that they're going to be in the top 4. I don't know what to make of them right now. Like, I've watched them a ton. They have great games, and then, like, against us, who has been bad, they didn't look good at all.
Well,
Unpredictable.
Yeah, that's a great way of saying it, and I think so much of their game is dependent on Cole Palmer. A lot more. Like, I know that we knew it last year. Obviously, like, the team wasn't very good, but he was like the player of the year. But if he's not firing, if he's not scoring goals, if he's not creating assists, you've seen the last couple of matches where they've dropped points or they've tied or whatever it may be, and he hasn't really played well. Even like the 8-0 game that they won in the Conference League, like, he didn't play at all. But they're playing a team that I've never heard of and I probably will never hear of again. So I don't know. I think that they're really dependent on him, but equally so, like, Arsenal's really dependent on Odegaard and Saka. And when they were down injured, like, you saw what happened there. And I'm sure if Liverpool fucked around and got a couple like massive injuries and like their key players, like, it would be the same thing. So if they can hold on to, I think, not dropping all 3 points, if they can like pull through ties or whatever it may be, if he's having an off game, then there's always the chance for top 4, top 5. But I don't know. I think they're really, really, really dependent on him.
They've got all this depth. Who fills in for him? Like,
João Felix is like
João
the
Felix,
only one. But
Enzo Fernandez.
But Enzo's not a creator.
Enzo's not creative.
Enzo's actually like not much of anything. Like, he's not a 6, he's not an 8, he's not a 10, and that's not even like a slight to him. But like, it's been really clear that he's none of those 3 players. And like, João Felix, I think, is the closest thing that you get. But João Felix is a really different player than him.
And Kunku could play as a 10 too if you want. But like,
yeah,
I forget that they have him.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of what makes them sort of this like in between right now is they don't know their best 11. I don't think they have like chemistry yet to decide like, hey, these are our best 11 guys that are going to play week in, week out. They're still deciding if it looks like Neto's probably going to be left wing. I think
he's been really good, to be fair.
Locked in that right wing as well. Nicholas Jackson looks like he actually might have that spot secured. So like, they have some things that are selling in, but even so, like the Enzo, Caicedo midfield has sort of switched up with Lobby a couple times. I think they just got Cucurella back on left wing. So I think they're trying to decide what their best 11 is, and if you don't have a set best 11, you will not be competing for the title. Like, I just don't think that's possible.
Yeah. What is clear, though, is that Maresca's tactics and the way he wants to set them up is working. Like, they will find players to play in that system for as long as he remains the head coach. You know, like, I think that
he's got at least a couple more months.
At least
Christmas
before. It's right around the corner.
Quickly approaching.
But yeah, I don't really know what to make of them either. There's a couple spots that I think that they could reinforce and create more of like a lockdown position, but I don't know. I think that their starting 11 is getting more and more clear. I think the left wing, whether Pedro Neto stays healthy for a whole season or not, and what you want to do.
I'm more sold on Pedro Neto than I'm sold on Medwicke.
So am I. But like,
you know what I mean? Like, that's the thing.
Neto's
for me, is it's kind of like Medwicke's been really good, and I think he scored like 3 or 4 goals against some shit team earlier this year. You know, I just don't know what to. But then all of a sudden, it's like you watch him, and then like next week or 2 weeks from now, he'll go out and he'll score twice, and Nico Jackson will get like a tap in on a counter or something like that, and it's like I have no clue.
It's impossible to take into account too. Like, I think some analysts or fans or people on Twitter take into account like seeing them play in the Conference League and how much they're winning these games by, and seeing some of these guys scoring goals, but it's tough because you don't fully want to take that fully take that into account, because like most Premier League teams that are top 10 should be murdering everybody in the Conference League. So looking at it more from the perspective of like just the Premier League, I agree with what you said at first. Like, it's almost fully Cole Palmer dependent. And I also think outside of like a team like Bayern Munich or Real Madrid or Manchester City, who are super deep in terms of like insane talent. Like Chelsea just, I don't know if it's the wrong amount of excess talent or what the case is, but like they almost need to sell some of these high dollar guys, buy back a couple of the hotels that they sold, and then get players who are role players that are meant to come off the bench, because it's got to be tough in a system that's like so shaky and you don't know who the starting 11 is, like Flan said, and then still have João Felix, Modric, so on and so forth. I could go down the list of all these superstars on your bench. Like that's not what these guys want. That's not what these, guys who would be starting at a lot of other clubs want. And
it's what they signed up for. That's what's so hard. Yeah. It's like they knew what they were getting into.
And for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years, like all these guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we've talked about that so many times during the window, especially when they were signing these insanely long contracts. It just doesn't make both football sense or business.
The strategy is almost like, if it works, you look like geniuses, but if not, it's almost like the complete adverse effect, where there's almost no in the middle. Like they're already to a point. I was listening to a podcast this weekend called The Club, and they were talking about like already cutting their losses on Enzo. It was like, you might as well get rid of him now before he just continues to ride on the bench and doesn't play. I mean, he's 100 million, 105 or whatever he went for.
Mm-hmm.
Like he might not be as valuable in a year as he is right now. Like they're going to have to eventually just like cut their losses on some of those players. But then again, if it works, like all of a sudden they start scoring goals and continue to win games. It's like you look like geniuses, but there's not really much of an in the middle there.
Yeah. The exciting thing for the league is that between 3rd place and 13th place, there's 4 points.
Why'd you pick 13th?
Just because it just felt like a good number just to throw out there. But that's a lot closer in the middle of the table than we've seen in a lot of years.
That's true. It's very tight.
Which just creates a lot of pressure on all of the managers that manage those teams to get it right. Because so quickly you can find yourself at the bottom of that, but equally so, you can bounce up, and create some distance. And I mean, honestly, like Liverpool sitting 9 points ahead of Arsenal and 5 points ahead of City. Like, I mean, even that, like, it's doable to close that gap. But I mean, like, Liverpool's like a couple of wins away from really, really, really distancing themselves from the rest of the pack. So I think that all of the managers, Chelsea and Arsenal included, have a lot to figure out if they're going to continue to like challenge for that top spot. But they can also really cement and firm up their 3rd and 4th and 5th slot. So we'll see. Connor Sindobri, you got to watch Ruud's final performance as the Manchester United manager for now, with a convincing 3-0 victory over Leicester City. How good did that feel as a fan?
I think, funny enough, this game was the most confident I think I've been going into a United game in like probably a year. Like, just because like, one, we did beat the shit out of them 2 weeks ago. But then, like, we've actually been scoring goals over the last 2 weeks. I mean, it was cool I know I mentioned it last week. Like, it makes sense for Ruud to leave. Emery needs his own staff. You don't need anybody to stay. But, like, just for him to, like, kind of live out a dream for 4 games. He ended on a 3-0 win. His dad was in the stands crying, like, can't beat it. I think in terms of the game itself, I think the majority of the United players, I think, you can say positive things about. Obviously, Bruno Fernandes, I mentioned him last week. He's finally getting to the point where, since Ten Hag has left, he's got 4 goals in 4 games. He's starting to click. I was super excited to see Ahmad start. Ahmad's been balling as well. I mean, Ugarte, Casemiro, they looked good. The center backs look good. Mazraoui is continuously going to be my signing of the season. He was our best left back, and he was our best right back. I think I'm a little bit worried about Marcus Rashford. I think he deserved to kind of start in this game, but just the impact that we've seen Garnacho have this season, and I think Garnacho needed a game on the bench, but I'm just struggling to see where, if you're Emery and you're watching these last couple of games and you're watching Marcus Rashford play and you're trying to decide where is he going to fit in the system and how I want to play, it's just becoming very apparent that he hasn't been on it. And that does not going to say that he's going to switch it on, but I think when you look at Alejandro Garnacho this year, he's got 11 goal contributions. That's equal with Bukayo Saka. It's equal with Luis Diaz, and more than I think basically every other winger on the top 16 besides Mohamed Salah. It's like Alejandro Garnacho, as much as he still needs to clean up his decision making, like he's 20 years old and he's figuring it out, so he has to play. So I'm a little bit nervous for Marcus Højlund. I don't really know what to make with. He's typically good at hold up play, making his runs in behind, and his hold up play isn't good. He's kind of useless on the field, and I'm not saying I'm giving up on him by any means, but Emery's got a big job at hand figuring out how to use both of our nines because they're polar opposite players, and neither of them is really bagging goals at a consistent rate. So a little bit nervous in terms of how he's going to work in Erasmus Højlund. The last person I thought had an okay game, and I think it's because he's the only player that started every single game this year. Diallo wasn't great. He got skinned more than a couple times, took a bad yellow card as well. Happy he got some rest, but overall, happy with the performance. 3 goals. We haven't scored consistently all season. Ruud finally got our goal differential away from -0, so that's a positive as well. But we move. I think it's kind of one of those we can't really take too much from the last 4 games because who knows how Amorim is going to set us up and who he's going to want to play. But at least he's got us in a position where we're only 4 points off of 4th. That's a big deal, and so we're in a position where we can kind of go on a run here. But happy with the result and ready for the Amorim era, I guess all I can say.
You remember when you guys called Højlund the next Holland?
I do.
I do remember that.
He's the Make-A-Wish Holland. The Wish.com Holland.
Wish.com. Yeah, no, he can't really figure it out. I've been really critical of him this season because the hold-up play thing is so weird. He looks really weak on the field. He's not holding anything up. He looks like he tries to back into defenders, and defenders just kind of let him go, and the passes into him get intercepted more than any striker I've seen in a really long time. It's like he just doesn't really know how to use his body. I wish that I could tell you that I was a Sporting Lisbon tactician of watching all of Amorim's tactics and how he uses the number 9. Is it hold up? Is it just a fox in the box kind of thing? But I'm not. So we're going to have to see what he does with the 2 number 9s. I think that the rest of the team is going to really figure it out. They're going to be asked to do a different role. And I think that there's going to be a lot of pressure on Amorim right away to implement his system. And I'll be curious to see what that looks like. But the Marcus thing, man, I'll double down on that. I think there's no doubt that over the last, year or so, really since March of, I guess, 2 Marches ago. So even at the tail end of his really, really good season, he just looks off. And the thing is that's probably the most disappointing right now is that he just looks completely disinterested from playing the game. I don't know. I texted one of my buddies during the game, and there's a couple of times where it just felt like I was out there at a kick around with one of my buddies that I used to play with, and you can just tell that he just doesn't have the love of the game anymore. It's all the little moments of the effort, or it's the little moments of tuning in or switching on or whatever it is. It's so inconsistent, and he's 27, 28 years old. This is the time that he's supposed to be.
I think you just compare it with Garnacho too, and yes, his decision making in front of goal needs to improve, but every single time he's on the ball, regardless, something happens. It's just the type of player he is. Something happens, and so when you see it in Garnacho is on the bench, which I do think he's 20 years old. You gotta manage him correctly, but then when he's not on the field and Marcus is out there, it's just so much more apparent.
Yeah,
that we have almost nothing going down that left side. Even on Sunday, everything went through Ahmad. The majority of our chances created, everything went through that right side. Ahmad and Bruno were linking up, kind of changing as 10s. So I don't know, man. We'll see, but
yeah, it's tough to watch. And I think something to consider is when Marcus was 20, we were saying a lot of the same things about him, where he was really electric. He was getting on the ball. He was making things happen in a team where we really needed that back then. We needed some pace. We needed just some excitement. He was that, and now he's not. And it's really clear to see. So I'm kind of in the space now, and may surprise some people, but I'm in the space where it's like, I think at the end of the season, if we can do a deal for him and move him on somewhere else, I think it's the right time to do that. I think kind of regardless of what happens the rest of the season, Marcus has been like consistently my favorite player at United since he's come into the first team, but it's so clear that it's not working out anymore, and I think it's time for him to get a fresh start somewhere else.
Wow, United
Big
fans have
statement.
some post-Ten
That's
Hag
crazy.
clarity. Is this what I'm hearing?
You
You guys
said
are
it.
actually ready to turn the
Big
page?
statement.
Wow.
It is a big statement, but it's like, you look at what
I'm not going to go that far yet. But
I'm
I
there.
get, I get where you're coming from.
That's got to
I'm
suck to
there.
admit too.
Yeah, and it does. Like, I mean, like he has been. I mean, jerseys on the wall behind me. I mean, like it's just like he's been my favorite player for a long time, but it's so clear that it's not working out. And if he's going to be on that big of a contract and he's going to be like forced into starting games, you can't play the first 70 minutes of games with someone not on the left wing.
I mean, there's a legitimate argument right now that like he should not be in the 11, especially with Ahmad and how Garnacho's been this year. Like, there's a real argument where he should not be playing.
Well, and then just to tack it on, and I don't mean to just like pressure all this, pile all this pressure onto Marcus, but like
he shouldn't. So careful.
Yeah. He shouldn't be starting games, period. But you should expect like a former England international to come in off the bench and do a shift. He's not even doing that. So it's like it's a situation that if literally we had anyone else healthy and available to play, like even if we had a young kid who was 18, like I'd rather put him in there now.
My replies were terrible too. I tweeted on Sunday morning before the game. I responded to one of the United accounts. I said, "Come back to this when Rashford scores," and he dropped a fucking stinker of a lifetime.
It just hurts.
Yeah.
But on the contrary, man, Ahmad Diallo is a special player. I'm not going to get too far ahead of myself and say that he's God's gift to earth. But man, what a breath of fresh air he is in the United team. Like you haven't really seen someone like that with the ball control and the kind of the calmness and the picking out the passes since Juan Mata, when, Juan Mata was kind of in his prime, coming off of his last season at Chelsea. He's just such a different player. It's really cool. It's cool to watch. It's fun to watch. I absolutely loved that, Messi scored in the MLS playoffs, whatever, like the header. And people said like Messi's trying so hard to pull in a mod, you fucking wank. Like it's just so funny. So when we resume Premier League action here in a little bit of time, we're under a new manager. Some guys are coming back from injuries. We might see a pretty different look to this Manchester United squad, and hopefully these guys are on their best behavior for the rest of the season, because that would be cool to watch. And we'll see how it goes. I think
13th place. I love to see it.
4 points off third, brother.
I will say it's always funny because this tweet, in some form or fashion, it changes all the time. But I saw the tweet again that was like, Spurs just 1 point above United, but no one cares because Big Ange calls journalist mate and played a high line when down to 9 men against Chelsea. It comes out like every now and then in some shape or form.
Before we go on to Big Ange's Tottenham Hotspurs, Flan, a huge victory for Liverpool.
Awesome.
I guess another result where you were just seeing what we kind of expect out of Liverpool at this point, with the results going their way. But how do you feel beating Villa?
Yeah, I mean, it felt good for sure. Villa's a good side. They have a great coach. They've been in good form all season. I don't think they're as scary as some of the other teams we've played. We've been on like a crazy run of games. It was like Chelsea, Leipzig, Arsenal. I think we played Brighton in there maybe twice. Leverkusen. And I think the complaint from a lot of people, or the knock on Liverpool, was like, yes, we've had a good start to the season, but Slot hasn't really had a real test yet. I'm still a firm believer, and I think Hoove would back me up on this, that every game in the Prem is a scary game. All games are tough games. But
he's back, ladies and gentlemen. Flan is back on the pod.
But it's true. Like, I mean, we've now had a good string of games where we've played very good teams, like undoubtedly very good teams. And we've come through, I think, almost winning all except for one of the games. So yeah, it's good to beat Villa. I got to say, coming off the Leverkusen 4-0, I felt like we were flying so high, like there was no chance. I will say it's the first time that if you want to talk about like differences between Klopp and Slot and how our team plays, the first time we've just like controlled the game more so than just tried to like all out press and try and outscore in a sense, which is a lot of times what we did with Klopp towards the end of the era is try and press super high, get caught out a couple times, but we just have enough talent that it doesn't matter. This game was much more of a we control the entire game, we just possess. We were very slow in build up, very patient. So it was good to see, and it was good to see us win. Hate to see Trent go down with a little hamstring injury, but thankful for the international break, I guess, to give him a little bit of time there.
So annoying how consistent you guys are. So stupid. I hate it.
It's really amazing. I mean, like, I haven't seen us play this type of like consistent, like defensive minded, controlled football in years for sure. Like even in that 2018-2019 season or 19-20 season when we literally like crushed everyone and lost 3 games all season, it was like it didn't feel like we were playing this controlled. We were just beating teams with like high energy, high press, high skill. This is very controlled, very, very. I mean, sometimes a little more boring to watch, but as a fan, being top of the table, I'm definitely not bored. Yeah.
You know who I think would be the scariest player as a defender to have to go up against? It's Luis Diaz, man. He like every time I watch Liverpool, he impresses me, but just because he's just a pest, man. Like every time you think he's not going to be there, he ends up being there somehow. It's just like the fact that, and this is going to be a rare Liverpool compliment, it's like Salah on one side and then him on the other is just like if one of your wingbacks isn't on their best that day, you're just going to get beat for 90 minutes because they've both been electric this year.
Yeah, agreed. And Gakpo's looked fantastic as well.
Yeah, he's been good too.
Like coming off the bench or starting some games. Like, yeah, I think our front three is absolutely firing. I still cannot believe the Mo Salah slander. This guy does not get enough love. He already has 10 assists and 10 goals on the season. That is like, I think he's the first player ever to reach that stat faster than even the god himself, Messi. So like, it's really crazy the season he's having. I'm praying we can get contracts sorted for Verge, Salah, and Trent.
What's the deal with that? Like, are they
Trent's
just
going to Madrid?
So if you don't know Liverpool, like historically, FSG, how they do contracts is basically like Moneyball. I mean, if any of you have seen Moneyball, you know at the end of the movie, the Boston Red Sox come to the A's and they say, hey, like we'll buy you out for insane amounts of money because we want to Moneyball our team. That's FSG. That's our same ownership who owns Liverpool. So that's just how we do business. And we never give contracts to anyone who's older than 30 for more than a year. We've never done it. We've stood by that firmly. And we also don't pay great wages. If you look at our wage structure compared to any of the other top clubs, other than barring like Verge and Mo and maybe Trent, who I think are our 3 highest wages, like even them, I mean, United will just like shit out for a random guy like 350K a week. And we just have never done that. So even if you talk about like that amazing team that we had, we let Gini Wijnaldum walk when he was an absolute engine for our team because he just turned 30 and we didn't want to give him the 3-year like retire with us contract. We kept stringing Milner along on like 1 years. This is just what we do as a club. So we would have to, for the first time in our history, break that structure of paying a player big money on a multi-year contract to keep them, which in my opinion, Mo Salah and Virgil van Dijk are more than worth it. And I think they've proven that. I think Mo Salah, more than anyone, has shown that this guy is still in insane form, is still like world beater level, Ballon d'Or level, in my opinion, like winger contributions. So I don't know. I don't know if it's going to happen. Trent, I think, honestly, is the most likely of any of them to walk. But based on the club, how the club has done its structure in the past, I think it doesn't look good for Verge or Salah.
Just Trent and Jude being best friends.
Yeah,
it does not help.
It hurts, but I do love the fact that Real Madrid sucks. Like they look bad. Like
he's
that,
not
I
going
think that's
in
great.
and
I don't
he's
think
not going to change that team around immediately either with
agreed.
his amazing defensive prowess,
Yeah, I mean, I think legitimately, like, all he cares about is winning trophies, and like that is what he cares about ultimately. And I think he thought, if you look at last year, like how we finished, Klopp leaving, it sort of felt like it could be a time for him at nearing the peak of his career, to jump to Real Madrid, who's the biggest club in the world probably. So I think at this point now, you look at it, we're top of the table in the Champions League, we are top of the table in the Premier League, and everyone is on incredible form. Slot has us playing incredible football. Like, why would you leave right now? Doesn't make a ton of sense.
The other thing.
But then do you risk signing a multi-year and you guys going back next year?
Salah, you take that risk 10 times out of 10.
Yes, but as Trent.
As Trent,
that's true.
Specifically, like being at that peak.
I think if Trent has any desire to do it anywhere else, like, and also like bear in mind, it's not like he's going to like Arsenal. He's going to Real Madrid. Like, there's very few teams in the world that like, and what I mean by that, Lucas, that wasn't a shot at Arsenal. I'm saying like, it's not saying
we didn't lose to Ipswich this week.
I'm not saying that Arsenal's not like a top club, but what I'm saying is like it's not like he's leaving Liverpool to go to another rival. Like he's going to do it in a different league and like in a different competition. And there's
with
very
his best
few.
friend.
Yeah, there's very few teams.
It's the only club in the world where you leave a big six and it's considered a step up.
Totally.
Is.
Like there's just very few of them, and that just happens to be one. So I think also like he's 26 now, and he started consistently since he was 18 years old. So like he's really grown up in 8 years or whatever that is, like in the same team. Like I think it just might be ready for a change. And fortunately, unfortunately for Liverpool, whatever it is, like he's going to walk on a free, but I just don't see it happening any other way, like of him signing a contract and then Real Madrid. It's not how Real Madrid do business.
Yeah.
Real Madrid did the whole thing with Mbappe where like they refused to buy him for all that money. So they had him wind down his contract. Same. You get him on one side, you get Alphonso Davies on the other side, and Real Madrid's ready to go again.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a piece of it too. I mean, Steven Gerrard is his childhood hero. Famously played his entire career with Liverpool on what you could probably consider to be like kind of shitty Liverpool teams.
We can definitely consider
that. Yeah, I grew up watching shitty Liverpool teams. So, but yeah, I mean, I think there's something to that. Like, it happened a little bit with the Coutinho situation under Klopp, but it's like you either stay here and become a legend forever, or you walk away and just become another player on another team. So I think that's got to be a little bit on his mind, and I'm praying Gerrard's
think too with Verge and Salah's age, like Trent, like if you sign like a 4-year contract, like you're also signing up for in 2 years now or whatever it is, like it's not going to be a Verge and Salah team.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It's like you don't know what it's going to end up being.
Yeah. But like, I mean, outside of those two guys, the entire rest of the team is Robertson, I guess, as well. I think we need to replace a left back and Robbo. I mean, right wing we'd have to talk about, but Gakpo and Luis Diaz are still young. Jota's young. Nunez is young. Our entire midfield is extremely young. So, like, yeah, we obviously just signed another keeper. Like, we have replacements coming in. And I guess it's just a matter of, do you believe in, like, the picture, and do you want to be the captain of that team to build for the future, or do you just want to go stomp everyone on Real Madrid? Yeah.
I can't believe you guys don't have Anthony Robinson yet. Like, I feel like that
makes a ton of sense for our team. It
just is, like, sealed in the stars.
Yeah, I don't really get that either. I do think this season has been the first real like look at Robertson's age. I mean, we've seen Tsimikas start a couple games, which I honestly was not I was not the biggest fan of Tsimikas. I think he's slow as shit, but he can deliver a ball very well and has proven well on our team. So yeah, it's good. How much time do I have to talk about the fact that the referees are rigging games against us?
Dude, talk about it.
The same amount that I have.
Okay, because honestly, I think there's something to this for the Gunners as well. Yeah,
explain to the listeners who may not be involved on Twitter and TikTok and whatnot what's going on right now.
So for those of you who aren't aware right now, as of today, breaking news, a video released of a Premier League referee one who actually just refereed Liverpool's match this past weekend, and had some controversial calls. There was a video that released of him saying he hates Jurgen Klopp. He thinks the Liverpool manager is a. Can I cuss on this podcast? What's
Yeah, you
the?
can say whatever you want.
Okay.
Fuck you.
He
Say
thinks
whatever you want.
he thinks Jurgen Klopp is a fucking cunt. He
Okay,
thinks
maybe
that
not that one.
You said,
Quote.
"Oh,
It was
oh,
quoted.
Jeez,
It was a
bud.
quote. It
It
was
was
a
a
quote.
quote. That's a
guys.
quote, direct quote. He thinks like he basically said he hates the Scousers. They're annoying, unbearable, etc. Opinions shared by a lot of people in this
That means a
podcast,
raise.
potentially. Anyway, so this releases PGMOL, the governing body of the referees in the Premier League, instantly suspends him and starts an investigation. Initial reporting said he denied the video vehemently, said it was a deepfake AI. It has since come out that he has fully confirmed that the video is real, but now says, I don't remember saying any of that, which isn't the greatest defense because it's on video. So that's where we're at right now. Really bad day for Hoove, who says get in there and make it about yourself, because it turns out it was about us the whole time, baby. And they did hate us. I think, honestly, like, I'll explain a little bit. So, like, there was a little bit of history here that we have with this official dating back to 2020. I believe I did a little bit of research, so give me a little second here. It all started in 2020 in like a COVID game, lockdown game. This was the 2019-2020 season where Liverpool lost only 3 games, tied only 3 games, and was like 17 points clear of everybody in the Premier League by the time we won. So you could say, okay, like these situations didn't have a huge impact. But back in 2020, there was like a situation at Burnley at home. It was the only game that we did not win at home that entire season. And some late penalty drama where David Coote did not give a foul on Robertson that looked pretty stone cold penalty. Robbo and Jurgen Klopp chewed him out like on the field after the game, like on cameras, is all documented. It was not a great look for anyone involved, really. And then Jurgen Klopp absolutely slaughtered him in the press conference afterwards as well. That was the start of it all with David Coote. He was on VAR later that year in October for the Everton-Liverpool derby, Merseyside derby, in which Pickford threw a thigh-high 2-footed challenge into Virgil van Dijk in the box. They VAR'd it for offsides, I guess, but never went and looked at this challenge. It took Virgil van Dijk out for 9 months because it destroyed his ACL, significantly impacted our next season, etc. Both the head official and David Coote, who was on VAR there, came out afterwards and said, yeah, we kind of fucked up. We forgot to look at the challenge on Virgil van Dijk because we were so focused on the offsides. They said this like in a press conference.
Good process.
So good
Good
process
process.
once again, which is pretty crazy. They're like, yeah, we should have red carded that, but we forgot to look at it. It's like, okay, well, that's kind of your job. So not a great look. Then there was last season, which is the 23-24 season, the Arsenal game. This was December 23, where David Coote was on VAR again. Odegaard decides to basketball dribble the ball in his box. It does not get checked. They proceeded to do PGMOL head. Howard Webb came out afterwards, did analysis, said, yes, the wrong decision was absolutely made here. This 100% should have been a handball. Like, we missed this. That's David Coote, once again, showing his fine Liverpool love. And then I think the other one that same year, was in March against City. 1-1 draw again, where McAllister gets studs to the chest late in the game by Doku. A lot of people thought it should have been a penalty. Seemed pretty obvious, like studs were high. McAllister gets the ball first. VAR decided no penalty, and that was David Coote as an official on that game as well. Now, all that being said, I think sort of what you were saying, Winks, is this is not just a Liverpool thing. I think this is just a bigger, a small exposure of what is a much bigger issue with this governing body for referees in the Prem. They've been consistent for all of us. They have failed week in and week out to show like one call in one game is the same as another call in another game. On 2 of those situations I mentioned for Liverpool, Michael Oliver was refereeing as well. There have been so many ties to this guy and Man City. He's literally reffed games in Saudi for the Saudi government. like state teams. They paid him 20x what he gets in a Prem game, and then he'll ref the Prem game the next week. Like, it's hard to not draw ties between these things. I think it's good news in general because I think this was something that people had wanted last year to sort of start like, hey, we need to have clear VAR rules. We need some sort of like actual non-biased system in place so that we can just get games without the bullshit. And I think this will bring that up again because it's not something that we got resolved from last year to this year. I'm sure David Coote is not the only official who says shit about clubs behind closed doors. He just happened to be on video, on camera doing it. And it's like a thing that has gone on with Liverpool for a while. So I think it was a bad look for him especially, but hopefully PGMOL in general will have to get their shit together after this.
What I don't understand about it is, like, why not just have European referees inside the Premier League? I don't understand it. It's like, why do we need to have like only English-based referees where there's no doubt, like, we said this before we started recording, but like, you grow up in England, your whole life is centered around footy. Like, of course you
and a
like
specific
certain
team at that. Yeah.
And of course you like certain teams. I mean, there's players that actively play for certain teams that grew up supporting another team. Like, there's no doubt that that's going to influence how you see the game. I just, hopefully in like the awakening of the PGMOL, or not, maybe not the awakening, but I just hope that they decide to like loosen some of those restrictions around who can referee these games. Like, there's no reason why in the FIFA World Cup there should be like referees from all over the world.
Yeah.
In the Premier League, there's not allowed to. It just makes no sense to me.
Yeah,
Also,
it's very English stubborn.
That kid taking the video, wank. That's rule
Loser.
number. That's rule number one of after
Loser.
bars, bro.
Legend. What do you mean?
After bars are meant for unfiltered 7 a.m. conversations that nobody ever hears again. Like, what? How do you find yourself in this position with Premier League referee David Coote, and you're like, he says he hates Klopp. I'm gonna pull out my phone and just have him actively talk about it for a minute and a half to the camera. Idiot. Both of them are idiots, but that
not a good
sucks.
look for anyone involved.
No,
I think that the thing that sucks is I truthfully think that it's like nothing's going to change immediately, which is like it's just it goes on in every single game all year long by some of these referees, and there's obviously there's more blatant ones. Like, I was just looking up some of these calls, Flame, that you were talking, and some of them are crazy.
It's
like
crazy.
The Odegaard handball is insane.
The Odegaard one was like outrageous. Like, it was like no one saw this coming. Like, I mean, it's hard to say because it's like everyone's like, oh, we've been robbed of titles. Like, PGMOL is against us, and it's like, yes, in the past 5 years we have lost 2 Premier League titles by 1 point. None of these incidents with David Coote were in those seasons. So, like, you can't say, like, hey, like, oh, if we had this, we win the title. But it does just go to show, like, there is clear bias on English referees. Like, they have personal preferences on teams that they support when they're not working their job. It's tough to leave that entirely at home when you come to work because, like, it's your boyhood club. Like, it's who you love and who you support. So, you
didn't even bring up like it's not Liverpool, but you didn't even bring up the Rodri one where it was like the clear handball inside the box.
Rodri handball was like disgusting, but that once again, I think that might have been the Mike Oliver situation, which was like, hey,
that Luis Diaz situation was still top tier.
The Luis Diaz was top tier, like funny. That was crazy. And so I think it's like you put enough of these together, it's easy for Liverpool fans to feel like, and I think a lot of teams could do it, but certainly the Liverpool fan base feels like, why are we the team that has had these giant ones? Like, the Tottenham one was absurd.
It was absurd.
This one is obviously like this one is obviously like groundbreaking. Like, this has never happened before with any of the referees. So, like, you put enough of these together, it's easy to make a story that, okay, the entire refereeing bench is somewhat against us or is happy to let things slide more against our teams than others. So, fantastic. I gotta say,
Klopp so much. So
yeah. Gotta say, good for the team to build fuel around. Like, not like we needed reason, but
the truth always comes out. It always comes out. It always comes to light. You brought up the Tottenham situation, and I think that's nice to see Andy Hoover smile whenever that word comes up. So I think it's time for Hoover to have a release of how he's been feeling over the last couple of days, coming off of a disappointing loss, to say the least, to Ipswich And for those new Premier League fans, if you don't know who Ipswich is, that makes sense. They haven't been in the Prem in quite some time. Newly promoted this year. Hoover, is it time
Tough
for
place
Ange
to
to go?
play.
Oh, you mean Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, a home game? It is tough.
Yep. I have absolutely nothing prepared for this segment, so this is all off the dome. Yeah, where do you start? So, Ipswich hasn't won a game this season. I think I'll start there. That's a pretty good basis point of pointing out where we're at. I'm not sure I've been this crushed by a loss. I mean, in years, and that's saying something
Since a couple of years.
because I get crushed a lot.
Yeah.
Ange said that the Brighton loss, up 2-0 at half, losing 3-2, was the worst loss of his Spurs career. And then there's always that Homer Simpson meme that comes in. It's like the worst loss of your Spurs career so far. Like it really, you just can't even say things like that because, dude, you never know what's gonna happen. But like you mentioned, there's 4 points between third place and whatever you guys are, which is below me, which is great. Need that. But if you look at the 3 games this year that have absolutely defined the season thus far, Palace away, who were also in last place at the time. Ipswich at home, who were also last place at the time, and then Brighton away, up 2-0 at half, losing 3-2. You don't even pull points from. If you win the Palace and Ipswich games, which you should in any point of this campaign, or in the last 15 years of what I've watched from Spurs, you expect some of those wins. Palace was terrible. Ipswich was terrible. You can't blow a 2-0 lead at half. That's 7 points. That puts you at second over Man City on goal differential. Like, these are simple games that I'm requesting. You can throttle Villa at home 4-1, who finished top 4 last year. You can go to Old Trafford, throttle them 3-0, like it's just a Sunday walk in the park, and then you choke against the worst teams in the league. You can beat Man City at home with a B team, brother. Like, why? How? That in itself is an Ange problem. But the bigger picture is just so obvious. Every time we Spurs have one of these just unbelievable, mind-numbing losses, the Conte rant from 2 years ago always comes out and around. And it's the same thing every single year. 21 years with one owner, 18 different managers. Let's really think about that. What kind of level of success are you going to build with 18 managers in 21 years?
That's such a crazy stat.
It's top down, and it's been top down. It's been a long time since I've complained about Levy, but like I have complained about the leadership on this team, the leadership on the field, the leadership from Ange. None of that being enough. We've got no one. Sonny, truthfully, has never in my mind been an out-and-out captain. You know, he's not a Jan Vertonghen. We've gone over these types of things. The guys you want to step up, Cudi Romero, not really either. Or Mickey Van de Ven, he's 23. He's not going to be that guy. He's only been here for 12 months. Like, whoever you want to select, it's not enough. It's never been enough. The only team that ever had any success was Toby Alderweireld, Jan Vertonghen, Harry Kane, Musa, that core squad from 2019 and 2 years basically prior, and they finished second and whatnot. That was leadership. There was real quality guys in there. So you never replace them. You swap out a manager every year. There's never any sort of intention to build. Like, all I've been begging for years for a project. Build something. Projects are tough and difficult on the fans, but we've never had enough time to do that. So, we can sit here and point fingers, and Ange has a lot of blame to bear in these. Like, consistency is a manager problem, and he's even said that. And we've had managers at this club, Conte, Mourinho, they would come out and point fingers at whoever else is available to point fingers at. And Angie's like, this one's on me. That's 100%, which is all fine and dandy, and I appreciate the self-awareness in that front. But it's top down. Conte made this big long rant after a loss at Southampton or something. And he's like, this is the story of who they are. They've never had to play with pressure. They've never played for glory. They've never played with an objective to take on the top teams in the world. But we sit here and call ourselves this Big Six club. For fucking what? A one Carabao Cup in 2008? You're going to build this magnificent stadium, ton of money sink into $1 billion stadium. You've got some of the best facilities in the world. People come all the time and they're like, wow, the training facilities and the stadium, everything's insane. You literally are setting yourself up to be this unbelievably massive club, and then you choke at Ipswich at home. Make it make sense, dude. None of it makes sense. So it's what it is, dude. It's what it's always been. It's what it's always going to be with that bald head in the the CEO dressing room, whatever. I'm losing my words. I'm just so angry. I was fuming yesterday. There's not been many losses in my recent memory that are like that angering. So, that's pretty much where I'm at. Nothing's good. The sky's gray. It gets dark at 5:00, and Spurs are continuing to be the thorn in my side. And I tweeted, I was like, dude, obviously, Flan, my family's not a Spurs family. I am shouting into the void by myself every week, unless it's to Scotty Persha. Scotty Persha is really the only person that I bounce good ideas off of. But man, I picked the club for a couple of reasons, and you pick them when you're young and you stick with them, and that's how this is. But I saw fundamentals back then. I saw youth players being promoted. I saw organization in a farm system. I saw hope for glory. An objective was maybe we could win the Premier League and, dig out of this 6th to 8th position we've held for it's just not gotten better, dude. It's purgatory. And I'm going to watch them in 2 weeks against Man City at home without a doubt, with unwavered get up. That game's going to be great. We've kind of got Man City's number. Let's just play them every week. How does that make sense at all? But you can't handle Ipswich at home.
You guys actually do well against City, I'm not going to lie. Yeah. I feel like it's crazy, from a rival fan's perspective, I really don't ever, as you said, you guys don't have a project. We give Arsenal a lot of shit about their project because their project seems to not have a deadline, but at least they put something together. They started to build something. It was clear that they were working from a youth perspective up, and they planned to be good in 3 years or something. And they were like, hey, right now it's going to hurt, but we have to build a club around this. We have to build a culture. We have to build a team. We have to allow a manager to come in with his staff, etc. Ground up type project. And you're 100% right. Is that's never happened from Tottenham. And I as a rival fan, I don't even ever expect the team to be like that. I was just oh, you guys might make a couple additions this year that are good guys or whatever. But you're 100% right. You haven't had any movement like that in 5 to 10 years, it feels like.
No, dude.
The funniest part about Hooves' rant for me was the fact that 6 days ago, fellas, we released an episode called Spurs of the Moment with Dominic Solaki. With Dominic Solaki having a crown on his head.
Of the moment. It couldn't be more accurate. It is always... I texted Jacob Krupp. He's like, hey, good win. Spurs are flying. Texted me again after the Villa game. Spurs are flying. I literally was like, I take this fandom day by day. Today is a good day. Tomorrow it is over. And I have absolutely no idea what could happen in the following games, which has been very much so what we've seen. So fuck, dude. Back the guy for now. Don't fire him before the end of the year is my advice to Levy, because if you look historically at some of the managers he has fired Pochettino for less, he fired Nuno for less, he fired Mourinho for less. These three guys had better starts in the first 10 games than Ange this year. I don't think we ever saw the side of what they could have been, like we did with Ange last year. Like, September and October was so much fun. They were so good, top of the table, everything's great, and then you lose your two center backs and, shit happens. But, like, there was not 1 ounce of me being like, shit, Ange just got to turn this around. It's like, dude, we're toast. Like, we don't have some of these players that we need, yada, yada, yada. And this is the first time for real that I think there's been questioning of him. But the sensible fans are like, dude, same shit, different day. Like, we're going to just ditch him and start over and get another guy in who's got another plan, who wants different players and plays a different way. Let's just stick with the program for now. And if it sucks and if we come out and we finish mid-table and we don't win any, Carabao Cup or whatever, then okay, that's the time. Then you make the change, you get another manager, and you start a new summer with a new plan. But, like, it's the same vicious cycle we've talked about forever, dude.
Well, in kind of like a beautiful roundabout way, them firing Pochettino will be the reason that you get to sit behind his bench next Monday.
I couldn't be
and
more
watch
excited.
Live,
I may yell at him and let him know that he should drop this stupid gig. Go back to Spurs, bro.
It's not your fault. It was never your fault.
I love you, buddy.
Dude.
We miss you.
Yeah. So
I almost thought about like bringing out that new first time meme, but none of us have yet to lose to Ipswich, so I can't really do that one yet.
Unbelievable.
I mean, you're only 3 points off third. That is the beauty of it all. I mean, I know we're early season, but Tottenham is 3 points off third place. So, like, you're not in the worst spot, but you're 100% right. You should be in second or third place right now, like, without a doubt. Yeah.
Who knows where you'll be at the end of the season, though, if you keep losing to relegation teams, but getting results from top half.
The worst part is like, you can't even enjoy the good ones.
No, bro. I've never
the
been
worst
able
part
to.
about it.
The only time
I've been talking about beating City for months. I'm still talking about us beating them in the FA Cup.
No, it didn't mean all that much to me. Partially because they played like 12, 14-year-olds, but also because I knew it would just it wouldn't stick around for forever. Genuinely, last time I loved this club the way that I feel like I should all the time. I do. Don't get me wrong. Don't twist my words, but. The 2019 Champions League run was like a dreamland, bro. I've never experienced anything like that, and it's very clear that I may not experience anything like that for a long time. But it sucks to know that your team may be mid-table for a while. So, it's a tough pill to swallow.
Yeah, no, it's that is why we're fans of this sport. It's the highs and the lows. It's insane.
I'm just happy to provide some really solid sound bites for this one because that was terrible. I hated that.
God damn it. No, I get it, man. Well, gentlemen, as we alluded to earlier in this podcast, we have a big game coming up here in a week's time. We have the U.S. men's national team kicking off against Jamaica in the CONCACAF Nations League. Is that what they're calling this tournament now?
Yeah.
We have a doubleheader, or I guess a two-legged game, one on the 14th, one on the 18th. We are working with the United States men's national team to help get butts in seats for this game. So make sure that another plug to check the link in our bio. The roster got announced over the weekend of who's going to be at the camp for this game. It's a lot of the dogs. It's a lot of the guys that we're looking forward to see. Of the people that got announced, who are y'all looking forward to seeing in person?
Christian?
You think just it's Christian? Christian's the guy to watch?
No, I got one. Timmy Weah's kind of been balling in Italy a little bit, so I don't know what that lineup looks like, but I think for the first time in a long time, we're actually seeing Tim Weah get a run of games at his club, which is not something he really even had at Lille. And two, he's on the score sheet a couple times recently. Mm-hmm. So
scoring back-to-back games.
Scoring back-to-back games and a couple big goals too, if I remember correctly. So that's cool. I think we've always known the profile of player that he has and can be, and I've always just felt like he never hit the potential that everyone knew was in the boots. So hopefully, he can get some runs with the United States team too, and maybe just keep that going. I think it's really way more fun watching the U.S. when we have capable and confident wingers. And obviously, the guy on the left is not the issue. He's one of the players in the world right now, in my opinion. So we've got firing players. Does that ever translate to an away game with the United States men's team? No, but hopefully, maybe a little bit more so this time.
Yeah. You want to talk about ballers in the Italian league? Yunus Musa also.
He's in it,
bro.
yeah.
Dude, he is absolutely sick. I think that guy is a must play for the U.S. team. I think he is, like, honestly, I think he's more impactful in that midfield than Tyler Adams. I think that guy has been absolutely insane. Every time he plays for AC Milan, it feels like he has like amazing performances. Obviously, Christian is having an amazing run there as well. But yeah, I think Eunice is an absolute stud. Flies under the radar a little bit, not like in front of the cameras a lot. But he's an amazing story. He's a sick person and an insane player as well.
There's two guys that I'll be very curious about watching, other than the ones that we've mentioned, because same. Malik Tillman has been on a tear the last couple of weeks for PSV. Doing it in Champions League, doing it in the regular league as well, but he's been great. Now, the issue with him is where are you going to play him? Because he kind of falls into a couple of different positions, and we've yet to see really, at least for the U.S. men's national team, like where he fits into the system. But the other one that's an interesting call out is Brandon Vasquez. He's been in and out of the U.S. men's national team for the last 2 years. He chose the United States over Mexico after coming off like a crazy season with FC Cincinnati a couple years ago. And now he's playing in the Mexican top division, but he has not been called up in a while. And now he has been. So I'll be curious to see what Pochettino does with the number 9 position. If he goes with a 2 striker system, if he does a front 3, I'm not really sure what we're going to see. This is going to be one of the first times. I mean, I know that Pochettino has already managed games for the United States, but this will be the first one with some actual runway, working with guys in a full camp, knowing, and he has all the dogs there other than Tyler Adams, who is still coming back from injury, and Gio Reyna, which may never come back from injury. I don't know.
We're missing some strikers too, though. So like kind of on the same PSV note, like Ricardo Pepi,
he's on there, he's on there, bro.
No, I know that he but.
Oh, so
like
Balogun,
like this is I think it's true. Like my guy was going to be Pepe for a similar reason. Like we're missing 1 or 2 other striker options. So like as far as his international career, like this is, and again, like you said, a game with runway behind it, this is going to be like a big couple games for him, assuming they do play in a formation where it makes sense to start him as the striker, for him to like really step up and make a statement, knowing that, he can't be more easily subbed out in a different game if we have Flo and, and a couple of those other guys.
I'll tell you, I'm looking forward to seeing the 22-year-old Venezia boy, Gianluca Busio. He's only 22 years old. I think he has a bright future. I also think when we saw the last camp, there was like, McKinney didn't necessarily play. Like, I'm excited to see Busio get to play in the midfield with potentially Musa, potentially McKinney. Mm-hmm. Actually see him with some, not Aiden Morris, and I'm not hating on Aiden Morris, but just like players of a higher level.
Yeah.
I think it's just cool the fact that we get all these dogs to come to St. Louis, to be honest with you. Like, the highest level we've seen at this field since Leverkusen came.
You kind of talked about it, Doze, before we started recording, which I think is another reason why we need to just start recording as soon as everybody hops on. But you almost hope that something specific happens in this first leg in Jamaica, so that we do get to see as many of the dogs as possible. Yeah. Like hopefully it's a close enough game that we, obviously hope we win, but if it's by a singular goal, we can't afford to necessarily, lose that game. So obviously we're going to want to play the dogs. So there's a lot of different ways that this game, at Energizer Park could go, but yeah, really, really excited to see a lot of these guys.
Yeah, really looking at the midfield list, the only person that I'm like kind of indifferent on seeing live is Brendan Aronson. I just think that he's fallen off quite a bit over the last couple seasons. But you even have Johnny Cardoso, who for Real Betis has been insane, and he's heavily linked with Spurs in January. So I think that that'll be cool too to see like in person for you, Hoove, to see kind of what he brings to the game.
Timmy Ream getting to play at home too. That's
That'd be
awesome.
cool. That'd be cool.
That's so cool. He might be the captain.
Goat.
Yeah, he might be the captain.
Yeah. So there's a lot to look forward to. And listeners, I want to remind you that we have a raffle going until end of day Tuesday, the 12th, for you to win 2 free tickets to the U.S. men's national team game on the 18th. And if you miss out on the raffle, if you're not the lucky person chosen, you can still hit the link in our bio, in our Instagram bio, Twitter bio, wherever you find us. It's in our bio to get discounted tickets to that game. We'll all be there. We'll be pretty rowdy. Come say hey. Outside of section 137, we're going to be sitting right behind the players' bench. Come say hey to us. I know that a lot of you have used the ticket link already. If you want to come say hey during the game, we'd love to see you there. And Flan, thanks for joining as always.
Yeah, Flan, well done.
Thanks, brother.
Yeah,
Thanks for having me. It was a pleasure.
Next time that we invite you back, we'll make sure that Liverpool's in the shitter, just so you bring a different perspective.
I promise to come on if we're in a bad spot as well. You guys can hate on me then.
Yeah, that's what I like to hear. For the rest of you, cheers. We'll see you next week.
Cheers, boys.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, that's